And today we're going to be talking about the real push lawnmowers that we carry. We carry 3 of the Amish brands. The Clipper is the Cadillac of the 3. The mascot we consider the Buick, and the Silver Pro we consider the Chevrolet. Now all the mowers are basically designed the same. The difference in the models and the pricing is the materials that are used in them. So to understand how a real mower works, we're going to demonstrate on this paper cutter. So I want you to notice the metal-to-metal contact that we have on the paper cutter that gives the scissor type of cut. So that cuts the paper straight across very smoothly. Now if I took that handle and I held it away and tried to make that cut, see what happens? It just doesn't cut. And that's the same principle on a real mower. So you have your cutting blades that are going across your cutting bar. And to test a real mower to see if it's sharp, you want to use a strip of newspaper just like this, all the way across. See how clean that cuts? And now this mower is adjusted perfectly. So we don't want to make any more adjustments on, but we will show you how to make adjustments if you should have to. It uses these adjustment trunnions on each side. Some of the other models will have 2 adjustment screws, and basically what it is doing is that it's adjusting the cutting bar that's on a pivot that's on 2 axle bolts here. So clockwise is going to adjust it into the blade. Counterclockwise is going to adjust it away from the blade. Being that we're on an upside down orientation, everything's going to be in reverse. So we would be counterclockwise and counterclockwise. And you only want to do these in micro adjustments. And what I like to do is keep in orientation the flat spots where the wrench goes, so that I'm doing equal. And I'm only adjusting equal segments, just little micro, to test this out. Now some people would say, well, why can't I just use a feeler gauge? Tell me what distance I need to have a feeler gauge in here. Well, there is none. It's basically metal to metal. And this might sound like it's really tight. When you're pushing it in the grass and you're going at a speed, you're going to hear that clickety click click click, and that's the true signs of a real mower. So some people think that's too tight, and then they'll adjust it away, and then they'll complain because it's not cutting well. The other thing that people will do is that by mistake they'll get distracted and they'll adjust one clockwise and the other counterclockwise, and what happens is then the blade starts pitching. And when the blade starts pitching, it starts uneven wear on your reel to where you get a coning effect. So it's absolutely a must to keep this flat, equal adjustments so that it's meeting up with this reel. Real mowers do not do real well in uneven turf, or where there's a lot of sand, or where there's a lot of sticks, because they will get caught up and lock your real mower up. So real mowers are not for every lawn, and a real mower is not for everybody, because they are physical workout. We like to say exercise with a purpose while you're mowing your yard. Real mowers have some rehab benefits because it forces you to walk heel to toe. Okay, real mower wheels work much like a ratchet. So inside here you've got a ratchet, which is called a pawl, that's working on your gears, that's spinning your wheel. And then when you pull forward to lock in, then it locks in just like you're going to turn a bolt. Okay, we're going to take this wheel off to show you some maintenance that you will want to do on it. And depending on how much you use your mower, you may do this every season, or you may do it every few seasons. But basically, over time, grass will build up. So this hubcap just has little clips that clip in. And then there's a spring washer on here that you can work off with a screwdriver. It's a little spring clip. We recommend that you do this on a concrete floor or a driveway. Because of that. If you're in grass or gravel, that will fall down and then you'll lose it. So we'll pull this washer off and pull this wheel off. And if you notice, this has a metal gear that goes all the way around. And that metal gear meshes with this gear right here. So if there's grass that gets in here and balls up, then it will start balling up onto this gear. So they're recommended to clean this out with a brush, clean all your grass out, and then coat this with a heavyweight oil, like 30 weight oil, and not grease, because grease will ball up in here with your grass. So you will see there is some grease here on the pinion gear, and that's okay. If you were to replace that, you'd want to re-grease that. But for seasonal maintenance or every other season, whenever you do take the wheel off, this is what you would do. So we'd put that back on, line it up, slap it on, and we'll go over and get our snap ring. Put our washer back on. Now I have found out that a wood block works a lot better to put this on than trying to put it on with your fingers or a screwdriver. And then of course the hubcap just snaps back in place. And we're done with that. Okay, now we'll get a lot of calls that says, I cannot adjust my levers. They just won't move, no matter what I do. Is there something wrong with my mower? No, there's not. Real mowers, remember, have the two gears that have to mesh flat. So as soon as you loosen the axle, which you have to do to move the levers, which is these bolts right here, you'll see that there's a slide and there's center of the wheel. So as soon as I loosen that, you can see the play in that. So if that's not tightened back up, then you're going to have uneven wear. So loosen those up, adjust your levers where you want them, and then tighten them back down. Some people are just obsessed that they want their grass just cut at a certain height. So these adjustments in the levers will do about 2.5 inch. You also have a roller adjustment here that can move the mower up another inch. It does also provide some adjustment on your handlebar height. So you'd have to kind of play with that. It's right now at halfway, so basically I could adjust this up to another 1.5 inches or another 1/2 inch and mow my grass up to about 3 inches. Real mowers over 3 inches, when you start getting up to 4 inches, 6 inches, are not going to be very effective. So if you go away for a couple weeks and don't have somebody cut your grass and come back, you may have a problem. So reel mowers also are available, or have been available, in a 9-inch and a 10-inch wheel. Mascot still has a 9 and a 10-inch wheel. Clipper decided to split the difference and go to 9 and 5/8-inch wheel. A lot of that was the push to mow the grass at the highest point, but the fact is, at the end of the day, the difference between a 9 and a 10-inch wheel is only ½ an inch, because that's all that's touching the ground at any time. So the 9 and 5/8 is the standard for the clipper. You can still order the Mascot with the 10-inch wheel if you wanted to cut higher. This mower actually has 9-inch wheels on it. You've noticed a lot of the differences on the Amish-made mowers compared to one that you might find in a big box store or discount store. Everything is made heavier. It has the more expensive trunnions. If you notice that these blades are riveted. Now the big difference in that is a lot of the blades will be welded, machine welded. And the big difference on the riveted is when you weld, you shrink metal or expand metal. And then you get your reel cage out of round. Okay, so if you maintain your reel mower and you're not mowing large areas, your reel mower is going to last quite a while without needing sharpening. But at some point, or if you're mowing a lot of grass, you're going to end up having to have this sharpened. Now, there is a lapping compound kit that's a tune-up kit that you can brush on a lapping compound, and with this wheel off and that gear off, you can either use a hand crank option or a drill option, and you spin this backwards as you're putting the lapping on. Once that is complete, you don't want to ever push the mower forward with the lapping compound on, because you're going to destroy everything that you did before. So this would be probably the only time that I would wash a reel mower off, because I want to wash that lapping compound off, but then I want to make sure it dries. Because remember, you have metal to metal here, and metal to metal when wet is going to rust. And each time you put this mower away wet, and by the way, mowing wet grass is going to be the same issue. Anytime you put this mower away wet, it's going to develop rust in these areas, because you have about a 2-inch space that at any given time this reel is going against that blade. So what we would recommend is blowing your motor out with a leaf blower or an air hose, or brushing it out to get rid of your grass. And then, especially at the end of the season, take some WD-40 and spray over these blades, especially where they're hitting the blade or going to set on the blade. Also, storage of a reel mower is key. You don't want to put it into a wet area or a place that's going to get wet. One thing nice about reel mowers is you can actually hang them up on a wall, kind of up off the floor. You don't want to leave them out in the rain, because they're going to significantly reduce the life of your mower. At some point, you're going to have this professional sharpened on a machine, because remember, this item has, this reel and this blade have to meet up perfectly, and the reel has to be perfectly round to do that. So if you took a file, and there's some old timers that, well, I can just take a file and I can sharpen that. No, you can't. Because as soon as you put a file on here, you're not going to be able to keep this same spacing, and you're going to start having spacing between your blades. You won't be able to see it through the naked eye, but there's also a bevel that's cut on these, and that is to allow the grass to push out when it's cutting, this whole spiral effect pulls the grass in across and then spins it out. If the mower cage had just a flat blade across it, what's going to happen is, like a paddle, what's going to happen is the grass will all bunch up here. So this whole spiral concept, the roundness, the pitch, and everything is very critical for a real mower to mow correctly. So that's why you have to have this professional sharpen on a machine. So if you Google in real mower sharpening close to me, you might be surprised what will pop up. Because real mowers are still very popular, and they're growing in popularity with people wanting to reduce their carbon footprint. But they're also still very popular with the commercial gas-powered mowers being used in commercial applications, especially golf courses. So if you're unable to find something close to you, check with your local golf course and see where they're getting their real mowers sharpened, because they're using them on their greens. Some golf courses will have their own machines and will charge a fee to do that. Or they can tell you where they're taking their mowers to get them sharpened. We can have this sent in to the shop and they will sharpen it, tune it all up for you at a very reasonable fee. What the issue is shipping this and then shipping it back can get a little bit expensive. But if you did that maybe every couple years or every 3 years, again depending on the size of your yard, that may not be a bad option. At least you'll know that you would have a professionally sharpened mower. Okay, the clipper mowers and the mascot mowers and the Silver Pro mowers, they all will come assembled looking like this unit. You will have to put the handle on them, and it's fairly easy. But we do have people that seem to get tripped up on it. And basically on this nameplate, the instructions will talk about 2 sheet metal screws. And the Amish, since they do not use computers and have a lot of access like we do to quickly make changes, their manuals get somewhat outdated. So there's 2 things in the clipper manual that's going to be outdated, and that's using the 2 screws to hold the nameplate on. And then a torsion bar that used to go across this is no longer an issue. So disregard any discussions about adjusting the torsion bar. The nameplate, which also has a lot of the instructions on that we covered on adjusting the mower, has 2 cleats that fit in what used to be screw holes. They found out over time that anything in a sheet metal type of screw is going to loosen up, and then this nameplate starts flapping around. So they made this change a few years ago. In order to mount this onto the mower, which they're studs here on each side, it's best to lay this handle out and mount these 2 on the stud first, and then mount everything else together. These will not spring open to be able to get on these studs. So then we also get calls saying, well, the carriage bolts that you sent with the handle are too short. I can't get them to go through to catch the top of the handle. Well, carriage bolts have a little square piece right here. And the idea of a carriage bolt is you drill a tight hole and then you tap them in all the way so that they actually will seat. This handle has been assembled at one time. And then it will pull down, and then you can put your nuts on here. And then that's your handle assembly.